Hello, I'm with Marcel Dorff once again. Sorry for the lack of uploads. This is my first video of the year for a while. I'm going to continue to do more of these, including like the review of the event. And first of all, I think we should talk about the recap of last week's event between Overeem versus Volkov, in which was kind of like a side kind of co-main and main for people that were heavily invested in guys like Edgar and Overeem. Like I said on the Fight and Talk podcast, me, I'm fairly young and I'm fairly new to the sport, so I didn't have the emotional attachment. I still thought it was sad, but I didn't have the emotional attachment to like Edgar's loss and Overeem's loss as some other people might have done. What was your feeling and thought process during those two fights?
Yeah, man. The funny thing is, I didn't really have that with Overeem, because I think Overeem, he's still pretty solid, but I didn't really saw him getting that heavyweight title. You said that last run, or the one last run. Yeah, I know. I mean, he didn't do bad at all, but in the Volkov fight, it really wasn't there. I think Volkov was overall much better. Actually, after one round, I knew Volkov was going to win. I picked Overeem before the fight, but after one round, I knew Volkov was going to win. Yeah, too bad, man. I mean, I wish Overeem all the best. He's a legend over here, I think also he's recognized worldwide as a legend in MMA, So, yeah, I don't know what's next for him, but I think he will continue at this moment. So, but I don't know what's next for him. The Edgar Sandhagen fight, man, I expected Sandhagen to win, but if I don't want to see anybody get knocked out like that's probably Frankie Edgar, and that's because the dude, he's such a hard worker, man. He always has that how do you say that grind, that grittiness, that normally you see that with young fighters, with guys like in the 20s, early 20s, late 20s, they having that still that grit, that hard going, that going forward, and Frankie Edgar still has that at his age. Has done so much in the sport, and to see him get brutally knocked out with a flying knee, it's what I said, man. After the fight, man, it's like super bittersweet, man. I'm super happy for Corey Sandhagen. He's a great fighter, and he deserves another great finish. Two great finishes after each other after getting stopped by Aljo. So that's amazing. But on the other hand, Frankie Edgar, I don't like to see him get KO'd like that. He also said he couldn't remember anything, so it's kind of bad, But we'll see what happened with Frankie, man. I like, for example, the Frankie Edgar versus Dominic Cruz matchup. If Cruz wins against Casey Kenny, maybe not. But if Cruz loses to Casey Kenny, why wouldn't you do that?
Yeah. Where do you go with Sandhagen now? Because obviously, it's kind of hard to put him in that world title picture. Like, it was a fantastic performance. He's had two amazing KOs over Marlon Moraes and Frankie Edgar in fairly quick fashion with both, and spectacular fashion. But he still did lose to Aljamain 2 fights ago, and obviously, if he wins against Peter Yan, what would you like to see him do? Would you like to see him get the next title shot, or do you think he needs one more fight?
Yeah, the thing is, I think he deserves his next title shot, man. I mean, if he had two close fights against Moraes and against Edgar and barely won, I would have said he needs another one. But these are dominating fights he had against both guys, very quick. I mean, what can you say about dominating in 28 seconds? I know it's not pretty dominating, but he had a quick finish, and the Moraes fight was very good as well. So he got one bad fight against Sterling in the UFC so far. But who else? People say TJ Dillashaw. I mean, I don't know, man. I think TJ Dillashaw, he hasn't have a win in the UFC in the division since 2018. 2-year suspension. Lost his last fight against Henry Cejudo, using EPO. I mean, does he deserve a title shot or even a number one contender fight? I don't think he does. So listen, man, I know the UFC, you know the UFC, they're probably going to do it anyways. So, but from my point of view, shouldn't happen. I think Sandhagen deserves it. And it doesn't matter, man, if Jan or Sterling wins. I mean, if Sterling wins, we can see what happened, do it again. I don't think Sterling will beat him that quick again, maybe he beat him again, but not in that fashion. I don't see that happen. And Sandhagen against Jan would be a pretty fun stylistic matchup. So, yeah, we'll see what happens. But also, Jan already said that he wants to fight TJ Dillashaw. So, we'll see what happens, man.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind it at all in getting a title shot. I think there's not many guys now in that top 5 that really deserve it right now. Obviously, you got Aldo, Garbrandt, obviously Sandhagen, Jan, and now Sterling. Obviously, Aldo and Garbrandt don't really deserve it right now. Aldo did look great against Marlon Vera, but he's just lost his world title fight to Peter Yan. But I think Sandhagen's a very good opponent. I've seen a lot of people say the person to beat Yan is Sandhagen. They say that the Yan fight's a very good matchup for Sandhagen. Also, just staying on the bantamweight division for a moment. Obviously, Casey Kenny, despite Dominic Cruz, he got in a lot of heat a couple of weeks ago over comments about Megan Anderson. How do you feel like Casey Kenny should be punished for what he said, or do you think it was just kind of like a comment that he wasn't really brought up in conversation and he went too far with it a bit?
Yeah, those are typical talks that happen with guys in the locker room or when you're with friends. But those kind of talks you shouldn't record and put it on the internet. That's just stupid, you know. You know it's gonna get stupid. And I mean, of course Anderson was pissed about that, and she had all right to. And I think I don't think he will get punished or anything because the UFC doesn't really seem to care about those kind of things. I think, but it's just stupid, you know. And I mean, I'm not really a big follower of the Tim Welsh, Sean O'Malley podcast or whatever. Like I said to Adam Martin in another podcast, I saw Tim Welsh talking with another fighter, and I won't say his name. And Tim Welsh was like, "Hey man, did you use Molly after the fight?" And that fighter was looking at him. He's like, "What do you?" I don't know. He was like, and then Tim Welsh was like, "Yeah, but no worries, man. Only our fans watching this. They're paying for the podcast, so it's not in public or anything." He's like, "Yeah, you saw Molly went to the club with some girls." So, and I saw it. It was a hidden video on YouTube, but somebody sent it to me, so I saw it. You know what I mean? So it's just kind of stupid that you think that you can put something on the web behind a paywall and somebody doesn't seeing it. You know, I mean, it's 2021. Whatever you put on the web, even when it's behind a paywall, somebody will pay for it and will put it in public. You know, it's just a stupid thought that it doesn't get through. But it was just stupid, man, by Casey Kenny. And he said, if you're offended by it, I'm apologize. That's not really an apology to me. But I mean, you know, I think people should stay out of it. It's something between Anderson and Casey Kenny, and I hope they meet each other at the event and they will talk about it. You know, what can I say more about it? I mean, it's pretty much like what's this guy named? This Stephen A. Smith, or what was Stephen A. Smith, right? From ESPN.
Smith,
yeah. I mean, he pretty much, if you really read the article, he says he hasn't something against it, but it's not for him and he won't watch it. But he says they got to do what they got to do, and people are so offended by it. And that's like, read the whole article, and maybe you're not that offended by it. I mean, I don't care what his thoughts are about it because I don't really take him serious if it comes to MMA, you know. So I'm like, whatever he says. But I understand people are kind of upset about it because he's a big guy at ESPN, you know. But I mean, let it go. I mean, you don't fight for him, so let it go.
Yeah, and also from what I've seen, a lot of people when talking about this Kenny thing is that everyone's saying how nice of a person Kenny actually is, and like he's a very nice dude as well. So I feel like I think if he just said no and then just left that at that, I think he would still be offended by it. But I don't think he didn't have to make an extra comment next to it. But I guess it's kind of good for him because he's fighting already a big name and he's fighting next month, so it's kind of goodish publicity at some point. I guess people are talking about him. But now let's move on to this week's great card. Well, great main event. The rest of the card is good. But it's not the best. Obviously, the most exciting fight I was looking forward to is no longer on the card, which is a shame. And it might have been it was a big fight for the bantamweight division with Munoz. So that's a shame. But there's still a lot of good prospects and good fights on this card, starting with Andre Ewell and Chris Gutierrez. I've had the chance to interview Andre Ewell before. He's a very nice guy, very funny guy. He's got a really nice sense of humor, really good personality. Just a very likable fighter. He's a very talented fighter as well. He's had a few close decisions that could have gone his way, could have not gone his way. Especially the Jonathan Martinez fight, which a lot of people thought Martinez won, and he got the rub on that fight, which I thought Martinez would win. But I like Andre Ewell, so he wasn't too like cocky about it. He was just like he's just like fine. Very good guy to watch as well. He's fighting against another very talented bantamweight in Chris Gutierrez, who I thought won the fight against Cody Durden. I don't really think it was a 10-8 round. We've seen a 10-8 round where if Durden was doing more damage to him, I thought it would have been a 10-8 round, but I just feel like he was just on his back, not really doing hurtful shots against him in that first round. And then in the next 2 rounds, Gutierrez just took over and dominated that fight. And he could have arguably got a 10-8 in one of those rounds. I think one of the rounds were more justifiable, but it ended up being a draw. And he looked very good in that fight onwards from the first round. He's also got a win over Timur Valiev. He's also lost to Timur Valiev as well. So I think I'm going Gutierrez here by decision. How do you see the fight going?
Yeah, same, man. I think Gutierrez will use his leg kicks like he always does. I mean, I want to come back on that Durden fight, man, because I'm one of the guys who scored 10-8 for Cody Durden. And I did that simply because I think Durden was active. He was on his back. But the thing was, Gutierrez didn't do anything at all in that first round. And that's what's really was bothering me. I was like, you don't even try to get out of there. It was like, okay, let's get this over with, lose this round, and let's go back on round 2 and round 3. That's why I scored a 10-8 and I had a draw. But listen, man, if Gutierrez shows up and doesn't show up like in the first round against Durden, he will probably win this fight. It's at catchweight as well, 140 pounds. It doesn't favor anybody because both guys are bantamweights. So I would go with Gutierrez, man. I think he's a more complete fighter than Ewell. Ewell is not a bad fighter at all. Don't get me wrong, but I would put my money on Gutierrez. Also a decision win for him, for me.
And next we have Diego Lima versus Bilal Muhammad. I'll let you take the lead first and give your opinions first on this fight.
Yeah, man, it's a fun fight. It's a rebooking, right, from last year. The fight was supposed to take place last year. I mean, Bilal is looking good so far in the UFC, man. What I saw from the most recent fights. He had that barn burner with Lyman Good, right? Where he won that fight, but it was a very good fight. Although it didn't got fight of the night because there was one other very good fight on that card. I don't know, remember. I think it was Ahmed against Burgos, obviously, but got the fight of the night. Otherwise, this one would have got it. Before that, defeating Takashi Sato in Abu Dhabi, and a win over Curtis Millender. He's pretty much doing very well, man. He lost only 1 in his last 8, so in his last 7. So Diego Lima on the second run in the UFC, lost the Ultimate Fighter finale against Jesse Taylor, then lost to Jushin Okami, but is on a 3-fight win streak right now with 2 split decisions in his last 2 fights. I think what should have been a unanimous, to be honest. Wasn't a split at all, in my opinion. Yeah, I think I really like Diego Lima, man, but I think Bilal Muhammad is a level above him at this moment, man. And Bilal can take you down and can grind you out if he wants that. And Diego is more known as a stand-up fighter, in my opinion. On the ground, he's not that bad, but he prefers to stand and bang. I'd say Bilal takes this fight, man. I don't think he will finish him. Maybe he will, but I don't think so. I would go with a unanimous decision again for Bilal Muhammad in this one.
Yeah, I'm also agreeing that Bilal Muhammad will win. I think he's one of these fighters, like so many of these fighters that are in like the age 30 to like 33 years old, where very good, but he's almost like the forgotten man. Like, I know he didn't even remember the name, but like you don't really hear anybody really talk about him unless he's got a fight coming up. Like, you don't really hear him mention, oh, he should fight Bilal Muhammad. Like, I think there's a reason for that. He's 17-3. Like, not many people really are keen to fight him. Also because he's just not that in the rankings. So there's a reason why he's having to fight Diego Lima. Like, so a lot of the other contenders are matched up with other people, and the top 15 might not want to take him on because they're thinking they're taking too much of a risk there. He's looked very good recently. He's very funny on social media. He's kind of got he's using social media correctly. He interacts with his fans as well quite nicely, and I think that's always a good plus, that you're willing to like connect with your fans more, which helps people get more interested in you and shows your personality a bit more. Diego Lima is obviously Douglas Lima's brother. Diego Lima's on a very good run. Like you mentioned, he has wins over Chad Laprise and Luke Jamu in his last fight. And I think it was a split decision because obviously I think Diego took the fight in Australia, so he was like the away fighter for that. I think he was always fighting against the judges there. But he's fit. I don't want to be harsh here, but I think he's 15-7 for a reason, and I just feel like Muhammad will have his way with him, and I think he might be able to get the sub round 3. On to the next fight between two very good veterans in Bobby Green and Jim Miller. Obviously, Bobby Green was getting a lot of momentum for himself. Before the fight against Thiago Moises, he beat Lando Venata, beat Clay Guida as well, who we saw last week, beat who did he beat now? Who was the guy that Clay Guida just beat? I forgot his name already.
Michael Johnson.
Michael Johnson, thank you. I just completely forgot his name then. But I thought Thiago Moises did win, and a lot of people do disagree with that decision. I just feel like his style, when you're looking at significant strikes, you can interpret whichever way you want. I just felt like Moises, even though Bobby Green did outland him, I think, by quite a bit on significant strikes, they didn't seem that hurtful punches. They seemed more like point scoring more than anything. And I felt like Moises was hitting with the better shots, and he was looking, and I think he looked quite good on the ground as well. I think he almost had a few subs in there as well. But in this fight, I do think Bobby Green will win. I think he looked very good. I think he even looked good against Thiago Moises, even though I did think he did lose. And Jim Miller, I think, is somebody that has taken more punishment recently than Bobby Green. I thought Bobby Green especially fought a lot in this last year. Well, Jim Miller's not been as active. I just feel like Green might be able to stop him in round 3, or he's more likely going to get a decision, though. How do you see it going?
This one actually pretty easy, man. It's either Jim Miller gets a first round submission or Bobby Green wins a decision. That's pretty much what I think. But Bobby Green is tough, not easy to finish. I don't see him getting finished by Jim Miller early. So I would go 100% with Bobby Green winning via unanimous decision this one, man. I think 29-28.
And the next fight in the division is a very, very good one between, it's in the featherweight division, but it's between two bantamweights, in Ricky Simone and Brian Kelleher, which is a fantastic fight. What are your thoughts on the fight, and who do you think will win it?
Yeah, man, finally, there's a third booking between both guys. So it's about time it's going to happen, you know. Ricky Simone has come back good, man, after his 2 losses. I think a split decision win over Ray Borg, and after that he defeated Pirello in Abu Dhabi, pretty recent, I think last month. Brian Kelleher, Keller is pretty solid, man. Always a very attractive fighting style. I think always goes for the finish. Won 3 of his last 4 fights. Only lost to Cody Stamen. Defeated Hunter Asher, who was undefeated before that, was a fight of the night. And also defeated Ode Osborne, who had a lot of hype with him from the Contender Series. The Ray Rodriguez fight was like 4 or 5 hours notice, because he was supposed to fight Natividad. Yeah, man, this is a fun one. It's a difficult one to pick as well. I think Simone is very heavy with his wrestling all the time. I think Keller is always looking for that guillotine choke, so you have to take care if you take him down that you don't hit your head, that he can lock in that guillotine. Overall, it's a pretty 50-50 fight to me, man. I think Keller might have some better stand-up. I think Simone is heavier with his wrestling. And if it's a 50-50 fight for me, I probably always go with the wrestler for some reason. I think a wrestler always has some more advantage, definitely if it goes into the later rounds. So I prefer Ricky Simone here, getting it done via decision.
Yeah, I'm kind of 50-50 on this fight. Originally, I did have Kelleher win, but Simone hasn't impressed me. I was a bit upset that he beat Gaetano Pirello because obviously I'm half Italian, so I know he represents Belgium, but he's got Italian blood.
Yeah.
But I just feel like don't let Kelleher's record kind of fool you. He has got 11 losses, but he's a very, very dangerous fighter. I think a lot of people do pick a fight due to somebody's record, and it doesn't always tell the story. We saw what he did to Ode Osborne, and Ode Osborne last week got a 26-second knockout. So I think he's a very good fighter, along with Ricky Simone, who beat Murad Dirakhvili. Whether you agree on what happened on that, he's still got that win on his record, and I think he will win. I think Simone will get the win. I think he might win by split decision. I just feel like it's going to be very close, but I agree with you. I do think his wrestling will be too much for him, and I think Simone should fight maybe a rematch with Murad. Murad is obviously his only opponent at the moment is Ice. So whether you want to do that fight next with Murad and Simone, which will be a very good rematch. Where do you see these two? Do you see any of these two like breaking through into the top 15 with a win here?
Oh, Simone or Keller or what? Sorry, I didn't got it.
Yeah.
I don't know, man, because it's at 145, right? And both are at 135 normally. So I don't know how it influenced the rankings in this one. But I mean, they are probably both in the 15, 20-ish kind of there, at the bantamweight division. So I don't know. It's hard to say. I think the bantamweight division is pretty stacked. So to be honest, I don't expect any of the two getting into the rankings with a win here. To be honest, but you don't know. No.
The next fight of the card is Gillian Robertson versus Miranda Maverick. This is a good fight. Robertson's obviously a strong wrestler, strong girl on the ground. She lost the last fight to Taylor Santos, which is no shame in doing. Santos is, in some people's arguably undefeated. She did lose to Mauro Borello, which isn't the best I've lost to have. Now she's not. I don't think she's in the UFC anymore. But then she went on to beat Gillian Robertson afterwards. But Gillian Robertson is a very talented fighter. Still young. She's only 25, I think. She's still got a lot of time to improve on. She's another girl where her record is misleading a bit. She's a better fighter than a 9-5 record, in my opinion. She's fighting a very good prospect in Miranda Maverick, who is 8-2. She looked good in her debut against Liana Jojua, which was only a 5-minute fight because I think she split her nose open, or Jojua had a very bad cut and the doctors had to stop it. We didn't really see the full skill set of Miranda Maverick in that fight, but she did look very good in that fight, and this is definitely a step up. from Jojoa. I think Maverick will win. I just feel like she has a bit more momentum. Who knows how Robertson was coping with that loss to Santa. I think Maverick might get done TKO round 2. How do you see it going?
Yeah, man, I'm convinced Tayla Santos in her debut sent her twin sister to the UFC because that wasn't Tayla Santos fighting against Mauro Romero Barada, man. I mean, that was crazy if you see the difference in her last two fights. Jillian Robertson, I really like her, man. She comes from that Ultimate Fighter season. She has a lot of potential, but she has some hiccups in their UFC fights. The Bueno Silva armbar in the first round, and the fight she was winning before that. The Macy Barber fight, the Taylor Santos fights. When she gets better competition, she doesn't show up sometimes. So Miranda Maverick, we only saw her once in the UFC so far against Liana Jojua. Was a good fight for her. She got the stoppage with that cut, like you said. She's a good prospect, but I have to see more from her. You know, I saw some of her Invicta fights, but I have to see her more in the UFC. If I can do an early prediction, I think Jillian Robertson is going to win this fight, man. I think I take her by a unanimous decision. I think Robertson's very good overall. And like you said, her record doesn't do her right at this moment. I think she's much better than her record showing. So give me Jillian Robertson, man, via decision.
And it's good that obviously we have opposing opinions on this. Could be a bit boring if we all agreed on the same thing. So it's good that we all have different opinions on stuff. Next fight is Rodolfo Vieira versus Anthony Hernandez. I think this might be one of the best, easiest one to predict of the card, in my opinion. I'm not too sure what you may think, but I think Vieira will win, and I think he will get him out there in the first round by submission. I was impressed by him against Safarov. I know Safarov isn't the best of fighters, and I think I'm not sure whether he's still in the UFC now. He's not fought since that fight, but he was a light heavyweight going down to middleweight, so he's obviously fighting a guy who's stronger than him or bigger than him, and he was able to dominate him, get him to the ground, and get his submission win. And I just feel like he was going to do the same to Anthony Hernandez. And Hernandez is coming off a horrible knockout to Kevin Holland. I think it was a really quick KO as well, and it was a brutal one as well. There's no shame to losing to Kevin Holland. We've seen what Kevin Holland has done. He's into the top 15 now in the rankings. I just don't know how well he's recovered from that, and I just feel like putting him against another really big prospect in Rodolfo Vieira, it's just not going to go his way, and I feel like he's going to lose by submission in round 1.
Yeah, I mean, you have black belts and you have black belts like Rodolfo Vieira, right? So I pretty much expect the same as pretty much anybody, despite Anthony Hernandez's teammates and his family probably. I think Vieira will win this fight via submission, either first or second round. So yeah, I don't have anything much to add to what you said.
And I think Vieira is also like a multiple-time BJJ champion as well. I think he's like on a Gilbert learns. I think he's like a 7-time. I'm not too sure that's correct, but he is a wizard on the ground, and I feel like he's going to be a massive problem in that division. Next is a very fun fight between two guys who are quite inexperienced, professional-wise and in the UFC. Obviously, Philip Rowe is making his UFC debut, but I think he's got a very bad record in terms of the guys he's beaten. I think 3 fights ago he beat a guy who was 0-16, and I think his other opponents weren't too much better than that. He did beat Edmund Shabazian's brother Leon on the Contender Series, and that was a good win. I think Leon was 7-1 or 7-0, but apart from that, he really hasn't fought the competition he has needed to warrant a place in the UFC or a chance on the Contender Series like he did, in my opinion, compared to a Gabe Green who had a really good fight against Daniel Rodriguez. I think he took that fight on short notice as well, and it was quite a fun fight. He didn't do too bad, and in my opinion, Daniel Rodriguez beat Nicholas Dalby. So he did very well, and he also beat guys. I think he was 7-0, 3-0. He fought better opposition here, and I don't know crazy amount about both fighters. I can only judge Green from the Rodriguez fight, and I was impressed with him. I think he will win by unanimous decision. How do you see it going?
Yeah, Green is solid, man. By the way, both guys have wins against Leon Shabazian. So Leon Gabe in the first round and Phil in the third round. So, but I agree with you there, man. I also picked Gabe Green to win this fight. I think he has done. He had a lot better opponents, a lot more better opponents. Yeah, he has beaten some solid guys, man. He's beaten Chris Padilla, Ivan Castillo, Richard Leroy. I don't know how to say that, but he's a good fighter as well. So, yeah, Gabe Green for me, man. I think he will stop him, probably a TKO in the second round. Gabe Green is an aggressive fighter, and I like to see him fight. Phil Rowe did well in the second and third round against Shabazian, but Shabazian did well in the first round. I Rowe very long time without a fight, man. Pulled out of 3 fights. I wonder how he's going to do, but I would say Gabe Green. I expect a TKO finish in the second round.
And this next fight is between 2 strawweights, which is probably the best women's division in the whole UFC. Like, the talent is very good. So good that the flyweight has divisions relied on some of the strawweights coming up, like we've got in the co-main event. So this fight is between Poliana Viano and Mallory Martin, which is a decent fight, I think. I'm going to go to you first, and what you may think about this fight and how do you see it going?
It's honestly a horrible fight to pick, to be honest, man. I think Poliana Viana, she won her UFC debut against Maya, back then Maya Stevenson. Now it's like Kahanauele again or something. I don't know how to pronounce that. Then she lost 3 straight, man. I thought she was gone. But the win against Emily Whitmire last time out saved her in the UFC. Everybody knows by now she got a win against Amanda Ribas as well via KO in the jungle fight. But that's like almost 5 or 6 years ago. So, that's some time ago. And that's pretty much, I think it was one or only or a second KO win in her career. She only has 1 or 2. So Mallory Martin on the other side. Not a good UFC debut against Verna Jandiroba, but I didn't expect that to be a good debut. It was a short notice, and Verna is legit. Hannah Cyphers, she got stunned in that first round, man. She was almost gone, and she came back in the second round. A lot of emotion when she got that tap. I mean, it's a very difficult fight to pick, man. It's a really difficult fight because it can go either way. This is one of the most tough fights on the card to pick, to be honest. I think some people will say Poliana has more of a name value, so they probably go with her. I think she's the favorite as well. I'm not sure. I haven't seen the odds yet. But I kind of feel that I have to go with Poliana, man, because Mallory got tagged last time out. I haven't seen Poliana really getting tagged, but Poliana is good on the ground. Mallory is pretty much as well. Split decision for Viana. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. You said quite a lot of the stuff that's important about this fight, like the fact that Mallory Martin did struggle against a opponent like Hannah Cyphers. And really, at this, if you're going to be the next big thing in this division, which is full of talent, you really have to make lighter work out of Hannah Cyphers, in my opinion. And a win over Emily Whitmire is not the best of wins to have. And it's a good win. She got the job done in Viana. I think I'm going to go Viana as well. I think that she was more impressive if you're basing it on the last 2 fights. And I think I'm going to go with unanimous decision to Viana. But it's a very close fight. I just don't have too much to say about this fight. I can only really judge them from the last 2 performances. And I was more impressed with Viana, but in these divisions, anything can happen in MMA. Anything can happen. You just don't really know at the moment. Like the betting favourites in MMA don't really mean much at the moment. Like I don't know how much of an underdog Pacquiao was over Kelly Roundtree, but that was like a huge upset. I feel like this year had a lot of upsets. Last year had a lot of upsets as well. So I think it could be a very good fight in this fight, but I think I'm going with Viana as well, unanimous decision. The next fight is a good fight in the middleweight division between Kelvin Gastelum and Ian Heinisch. I think I'm going with the upset here for Ian Heinisch. I just feel like, and it might be a bit of recency bias in terms of what he's been able to do. I know win over Gilbert Meerschaert maybe now doesn't have that much value in it after obviously we saw what happened with Hamzat, what Hamzat did to him, and but he still was able to. Heinisch did it first though. You have to give him the credit. He was able to KO Gerard quite quickly before the Hamzat fight. He's got very good power. He had a decent fight with Amir Akhmedov. He gassed a bit in that fight, but Akhmedov is no joke in that division. A guy who was top 15 at the time, I think, or maybe that win got him into the top 15. I'm not 100% sure on where he was at the time. But that KO did really impress me. I feel like it was a really good bounce back win. And I think he was scheduled to fight Brendan Allen. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. So he has been in camp recently. So I think he's not had too much of a longish layoff. He's been still training. And he's fighting Gastelum, whose confidence could be completely shot now. Obviously, losing to Jack Hermansson, Darren Till, and Israel Adesanya. So those are three really high-level losses to have on your record. Depending on how you scored the Gastelum fight, for Till, you might have thought Gastelum shouldn't be on the losing record right now, but I thought Till did win. That might be a bit of bias, but I just don't feel like Gastelum's going to win this fight. I just feel like it depends what kind of version he's going to get, what's his confidence like, how is he going to approach this? Is he going to be thinking, well, Ian Heinisch is not really the biggest name in that division. Is he he's not on my level. He could be thinking a lot of these things, underestimating a guy like Ian Heinisch, and a fighter that's got literally no pressure on him in Heinisch is a very dangerous guy. A guy that's got nothing to lose in that fight. It's a big step up for Heinisch. I think he might get him out of there in round 3. How do you see that fight going?
Yeah, by the way, you're not biased, man. Even Stevie Wonder scored that fight for Darren Till against Kelvin Gastelum, so you're not biased. I think everybody did. Yeah, he's on a 3-fight losing streak, man, Kelvin Gastelum, but he lost against the top of the division, man, Israel Adesanya, Darren Till, Jack Hermansson. So before that, he won against Ronaldo Jacare Souza in split decision in a fight I thought Jacare won. I think he won 2 and 3. I think Gastelum won 1. So it's hard to say, man. If you look at Heinisch did well against Meerschaert, had that at those losses against Brunson Akhmedov back-to-back. Before that, won 2 straight in the UFC and also the Dana White Contender Series, former LFA champion. It's hard to pick this one because if I go to if I look at the names Gastelum lost to, and he had a competitive fight with Adesanya, so we know he can do it. The Still fight was competitive. I think he lost it, was competitive. The Hermansson fight wasn't. If I look at Heinisch, he made quick work of Gerald Meerschaert, but the Akhmedov he gassed in. The Brunson fight wasn't great. It's hard to say, man. It's really hard to say, but I'm going with it's hard to pick Gastelum at this moment. I think he's talented, but I would prefer to see Gastelum cut to welterweight, honestly, man. I mean, I know he's been but I think he should make welterweight. I'm taking Heinisch in this one, a close decision. I'm not sure. It's another tough fight to pick this.
Yeah, and this is kind of fights you want, though. You kind of want tough fights to pick where it's kind of 50-50 fights, especially on the main card, which the next 2 fights on, well, I think Grasso Barber might be a 50-50, but in terms of like a higher level one compared to Marcus versus Pitolo, Ganesh and Heinrich is probably Gastelum and Heinrich, sorry, is a higher kind of like level fight in that middleweight division compared to Marcus Pitolo, which is also 50-50. And on to this next fight between Marquez and Pitolo. I'm predicting Marquez to win, but I'm really not confident on it. He's not fought for a long time. And there's a lot of questions around him, whether he's able to come back and whether he's got ring rust or how he is feeling going into this fight. And Mackie obviously is coming off a loss to Daniel Stewart, which is no shaming. Daniel Stewart's kind of one of the best gatekeepers around that top 25 ranking. Where if you're going to beat him, I think you're going to do very well in that division. If you're not that top 25 to 30 tier fighter and fighting against Daniel Stewart, you won't really beat him. So I don't think I know Marcus has got a win over Stewart, I think, in the round 3. That's why I just feel like Marquez. I think I'm going to go with Marquez just, but I really don't have too much idea about this fight. That's why you can see me do a lot of pauses. So I'm really not too sure on this fight. But what are your thoughts on it?
I really like Maki, man, but then he lost his UFC debut against Callum Potter, and that still bothers me, man. I mean, how can Maki Pitolo lose to Callum Potter? In my opinion, that's crazy. Then he won against Charles Bird, and then after that, 2 losses. Julian Marquez, very unfortunate, man. His fight against Sapobek Safarov got cancelled like twice. He hasn't fought since 2018, almost 2.5 years without a fight. Will that affect him? I don't know. We'll see. If I have to pick somebody here, I would go with Julian Marquez probably. He's more confident for me to pick than Maki Pitolo. Pitolo is a fun fighter to watch. Don't get me wrong, but Pitolo does sometimes some weird things in a fight, and I'm like, you shouldn't have done that. You should have gone this way. But hey, like I always say, I'm a couch cunt. I don't know anything, but that's just how I see it. But I mean, Julian Marquez for me. Probably if I go Julian Marquez TKO second round.
And also, I'm not sure how much of this really means anything, but I think Maki's from Hawaii as well, and Hawaii have had quite a good start to the year, and whether he can use that kind of like bounce of that small island, like normally you see like a small area. They find one success and a lot of people buzz off it. That could definitely happen with Pitolo. He might feel very confident seeing guys like Smoker, Holloway, Point Haley, Soriano winning. Like this all happened in the last month. I'm not sure whether he trains with all of them, but I'm sure he's kind of friends with them. So he might use that as confidence. I'm going with you, but I think Marcus is definitely the more confident prediction to pick for, but it's a very close fight and it's a good fight around the top 30 to 40 ranked fighters, so it's a very interesting fight. On to the co-main event between Macy Barber and Alexa Grasso. Alexa Grasso is obviously a very, very talented fighter. She's only lost 3 fights, and some people I thought she might have nicked it as far as the fight. I'm not sure whether that's kind of like a popular opinion on that. But I think it was very close, and I think if you're having a very close fight to Carlos Esparza, who was in line to fight for a world title last year, which didn't happen, but there was a lot of talk anyway, maybe not concrete in line to fight for the title, but there was a lot of talks about her being the next challenger for Sang-Wei Lee, and she had a very close fight with her. She looked very good against Ji Young Kim in a flyweight debut. We've seen a lot of these flyweights, or a couple of these flyweights have a lot of strawweights. Sorry, a couple of these strawweights have some success in this flyweight division. We saw Jessica Andrade come in and beat Caitlin Chookagian. She was a very high ranked flyweight at the time. I think she was like number 2. And we saw Cynthia Calvillo beat Jessica I think it was. I can't remember who she fought on her debut, but she won on a flyweight debut as well. So a lot of these strawweights are kind of like they're stuck between the top 10 and not really getting that title shot. They're moving across to the flyweight division and using their best to try and make a run in that division. I just feel like Grasso's more experienced. She's fought a lot of the better opponents than Macy Barber. I know the Macy Barber was injured during the Modafferi fight, and how much of that do you credit in her lapse? How much of that was that a problem in that? Well, that was a huge problem in that fight and that injury she had. But you shouldn't really be losing to Roxy Modafferi. I know she's a very liked fighter, but she's not going to be somebody who's going to be challenging that top 5 in that division, really. So I don't really think she should be losing to girls like that. So I feel like Grasso will win, and I think she might be able to get her out of there in the second round by leg kicks. How do you see the fight going?
I think, listen, man, Barber is good overall. She's pretty good on the ground. We know that. Stand-up is okay. Grasso is more of a stand-up fighter, in my opinion. She prefers to stand up, but her ground game isn't that bad. It's for me, it's a pretty weird matchup. You know, I wouldn't match both girls out with each other. I think both girls are very talented. Barber's obviously very young still. Grasso is also pretty young still. But I mean, if I go to experience, look at experience, I think Grasso has the experience here in this fight. Barber can pull it off, don't get me wrong, but I would go with Grasso via decision. I think she can win this fight. I see Grasso winning this one. And I also want to apologize to Bucky Barber for not picking his daughter. I don't want to have any problems with him at all. Because he goes public. You know, it's last time with the Modafferi one. So, but I'm going with Grasso. I think it will be a competitive fight, but if I had to put my money on somebody, it would be Grasso. Decision.
Do you think this should be like a co-main event of like your first pay-per-view? Like, do you feel like this? Why do you think that this is kind of it? Like, why do you not think they could have got anybody else to co-main? Do you reckon Usman and people?
They wanted Oliveira against against Chandler, but Oliveira didn't took it, and rightfully so, in my opinion. But I don't know, man. I mean, look at the card next month. You know, that's a crazy card. They could have put some better names on this one. Maybe I agree. Would I pay $70 for it? No, I wouldn't, but I don't have to because we have it on TV here, so I don't have that problem. But I mean, I understand the American viewer is upset that they have to pay $70 to see this, and pretty much, imagine Usman or Burns getting injured or getting COVID or whatever. What happens? You have to make this a fight night card. You know, you can't put this as a pay-per-view card. So you pretty much, and the UFC never learns from their mistakes, in my opinion. They have done this before. You know, I remember at UFC 151, they had Jones against Henderson, you know, and then Henderson had to pull out. And then they wanted to do Jones against Sonnen, and Jones didn't accept that fight. And then I think the co-main event was Jay Heron against Jake Ellenberger or something. So they couldn't keep that as a pay-per-view, and they canceled that whole card. And Dana was like, yeah, it's Jones and Greg Jackson's fault. I was like, no, man, it's your fault. You should have stacked the card better. You know, always things can happen with guys falling out. Listen, man, if somebody... if a title fight gets dropped from the March 6th card, there's no problem. We still have 2 title fights. And even if another one falls out, we still have one and a crazy card with the Thiago Santos, Alexander Rakic, Islam Makhachev, Drew Dober, Askarov against Joe Benavidez. You have a crazy card, Dominic Cruz. I mean, you know what I mean? And if you have this card, I don't want to talk shit about any of these fighters, but it's not really appealing to the fan, and definitely not to the casual fan, you know, who only buys a pay-per-view card, for example. They are like, huh, you know, this is kind of weird, you know. But hey, you will watch, I will watch, you know. But there won't be a lot of pay-per-view buys, I think, for the UFC. But that's their own fault, not our fault. So yeah, would that be a co-main event, Grasso against Barber? I understand it. It's probably the most appealing fight for many people besides the main event. So yeah, I understand it. Should it be? Probably not.
And the only really advantage for obviously our European fans is that we don't have to pay ridiculous amount of money for pay-per-views. So, and do you really need to have two pay-per-views in next month? I know you obviously want to stack that month up, but I think you're just hogging a lot of that talent for that month when it could have been used for this. Because I feel like
They
Usman should be gone. Yeah, gone.
they have to do another pay-per-view because they missed one last year due to the COVID. So they have to do two pay-per-views on in March. But still, I mean, you can schedule that better, I think, But hey, who am I? I'm not a matchmaker. I don't make money of it. I'm not a UFC employee, so I can't say. But I think you can do something better than what they did to this card. Because let's be honest, this card, it took a very long time before we actually had some fights for this card. Remember, it
Hmm.
took some time. So I remember a card like, what was that? Was a fight, I think, November 14th last year. We had a trillion of fights, like I think 13 fights. And from those 13 fights, there were 12 prelims. We are like, huh? And then we got the Makachev against Dos Anjos fight. That was obviously the main event because that was the best fight on that whole card. And then it got announced as the main event. And then that fight fell off and it was Felder against Dos Anjos. But all these other fights pretty much were a lot of prelims which got stuck on the main card. So sometimes they have these kind of events. I don't bother with fight nights if they do that. And even with pay-per-views not, I'll watch it anyways. The only thing that sucks is that we now have to stay awake. I have to stay awake from 4 a.m. to like almost 7:30, 8 a.m. to watch this pay-per-view. And you as well. For you is an hour earlier. Your pay-per-view starts at 3 p.m. I think, or 3 a.m. Sorry. So, but still, man, it's long. It's a long night. But sometimes it helps, if there is a less great fight on the card, I can close my eyes for 15 minutes. So that's okay.
Yeah. Also, what I do is I normally just watch the prelims first, and then in
Yeah.
the over prelims, and then watch the main card the next day. But this main event next is one of my favorite fighters are in it, so I need to make sure I do not go on social media at all because I'll be absolutely
You can,
devastated if I know one of the results before watching it. Because like I'll sometimes I only need to watch two more fights. I'll scroll up once and then all the results come up. I'm like, because I normally tweet after a fight, so
yeah.
I'll scroll up once and it will tell me the results. So I think that's the issue with me not staying up. But
I'm just shocked you
I
can do
can't
that.
watch the whole card.
I'm
What
just
did you say?
shocked you
Sorry,
can
I
do
didn't hear.
that. I said I'm just shocked you can do that. No many people do that. They just go to sleep and they watch it when they wake up. But man, I would be in my bed. I would be looking at Twitter as like refreshing, refresh, refresh, refresh. I want to know. That's how I am with those kind of things. So I always like. I can better stay awake and watch than go to bed and act like I'm not going to watch and go to Twitter and refresh. That doesn't make sense. So man, I
Mm-hmm.
wish I could do that, man. But I'm just too. How do you say that? I want to know. I want to know. So, but I wish I could. Would be much better for my sleep.
Yeah. um. This the main event onto the main event, which is a very very good fight in my opinion. I feel like a lot of people are sleeping on how dangerous Gilbert Burns is to Kamaru Usman. These two are former sparring partners, training partners, very good friends. I think they still are very good friends. I think they still get along fine. There's no hatred, no animosity. It was just kind of the first time for an Usman fight for quite a while. I think there was a lot of trash talk between the Woodley Usman fight, and then we had the Kobe Usman fight, which was hatred there, and we had Masvidal and Usman, which again was a not I wouldn't say hatred, but there was a very much disliking between them two. Well, in this fight, it's a very respectful build up, and I think they 100% know what the strongest and weakest areas are, which is very interesting to why these two have took the fight. They both will know how to beat them. They've sparred endlessly together. They've maybe Burns has helped Usman and vice versa. So I'm going to go to you first. How do you see this fight going, and kind of how excited are you for this fight?
Can't say I'm really overexcited, but I'm never until the fight starts. So that's not really that's just me, But it's pretty simple to break down, in my opinion. I mean, Usman, very good wrestler. Stand up, okay. Gilbert Burns, pretty decent stand up. Very good Brazil Jiu Jitsu. If the fight goes to the ground, and I expect Usman to take it to the ground, to be honest, his wrestling will be good, I think. A BJJ guy has lots of problems, difficulties with wrestlers normally. But how will Usman do? I don't know. It's not comparable to the Damian Maia fight, I think, because Maia is also a jiu-jitsu guy, another wrestler. So I honestly expect Kamaru to be heavy on top with his wrestling and try to stay out of submissions, and I mean, I hope we get an interesting fight, but I honestly think Usman will go for the takedown, try to keep Gilbert down, and try to wear him out, and probably try to get a finish. But I think he will win a unanimous decision over Gilbert Burns. But if we want to see an exciting fight, Gilbert Burns has to tag him probably in the first or second round, and then we gotta see an exciting fight. But I'd be surprised if it happens. But hey, man, it would be fun to see Gilbert as a champion. I think he's a great guy. And he's just also cool with the fans and everything, He has everything going for him, so it would be cool to see. But I have to go with my gut feeling, and I think Usman takes it. Unanimous decision win for the Nigerian Nightmare.
Do you think this fight could end up being a bit like the Colby fight in terms of, and if it does end up being a bit like the Colby fight, do you feel like that's Burns' best chance of obviously winning the fight, obviously how dangerous of a guy he is on the feet?
I think Burns' best chance to winning the fight is in the first two rounds. When both guys are still fresh, he is still fresh. I think, listen, man, it was impressive what he showed to Woodley, but so was what Usman did to Woodley, So that's his best chance, I think, to knock him out in the first or second round. I think everything else, Usman will probably try to take him down. The thing is, we don't know what happened between them when they were training, when they were sparring, and all that kind of stuff. We don't know that. So, and maybe I have a total bad read on this. I don't know, but I'm sticking with Usman in this one.
I think I'm going to be biased here just because Burns is my top 3 favorite fighters. I just really like the guy. I think the fact that he's kind of like a company guy in terms of he will take fights on short notice and he will win them. He will do what he has to do. He's earned his way into this title shot. He's beating guys like Damian Maia. Whether you want to say that guy is not as good as he is, he obviously wasn't as good as he used to be, but he still beat Ben Askren. Before that, I know Ben Askren is quite a divisive guy in that division, and in terms of his talent and in terms of where he stands in that division, but it still was a good win. And then obviously the win over Woodley. Again, you might have thought a guy who wasn't as good as he was, but again, this was still a guy who was coming off a very good title reign, or a quite long title reign. He's only lost before that to Burns, was to Usman. So, it wasn't that much of a decline in Woodley that maybe I thought. I think Colby fought the worst version of Tyron Woodley out of Usman and Burns, potentially. But I think I'm going to go with Burns by unanimous decision. I think he's shown he was able to go 5 rounds against Tyron Woodley quite nicely as well. Like, he wasn't too tired. So, but I am very scared about this fight because, like, I know I won't be able to sleep because I know I'll be thinking, I'll probably be in my head thinking about Burns lifting up the title, and then I'll wake up and then I'll get a notification saying Usman submits Burns or whatever. My heart will just think. But I'm going with Burns. I'm just very confident about this fight. I think this is Usman's most dangerous opponent. But Usman obviously is very good. He's very strong. He's a very dominant wrestler. Will get you up to the cage, even if he can't get you, take you down. We saw against Masvidal, he will stomp on your legs, which is the most irritating thing, I think. He constantly getting stomped on the leg or foot. And he also did those shoulder strikes, which are very irritating, just letting the point scorers. He could dominate Burns, but I'm just hoping he doesn't. I'm going to ask you a few questions, obviously, about the next upcoming cards and stuff. What are you most excited about going forward on the next couple of cards and into March? Like, what are you most exciting fights for the future?
Yeah, there are some I'm really looking forward to, man. Next week, Haas against Imavov. I think that's a great fight. That's good. Listen, man, the 259 pay-per-view is crazy. We don't even have to talk about it. Everybody knows it's an absolute barn burner. It's an amazing pay-per-view. The week before, we have Jairzinho Rosenstruck against Cyril Gane. We have Ankalaev on that card. Alonso Manifield, William Knight is a fun fight as well. There are so many fun. Randy Brown, Alex Oliveira. I mean, we have so many fights to look forward to, man. There are still some people keep adding fights, They keep getting fights added every day. So we have a lot of fun to look forward to. I also think the 260 card looks pretty decent with Woodley Luque, the 2 title fights. O'Malley Almeida is a fun fight. So, I mean, lots of fun to look forward to. I'm hearing they're also booking fights from May 15th. So after May 8th, we have another week of fights. So, yeah, a lot of fun stuff to look forward to. There's not anything in particular I want to pick out to say, but what I said, I'm looking forward to those cards, man.
And as we were saying off air about Bellator, obviously they're starting later than anybody else, as they're starting again in April. They've announced their light heavyweight Grand Prix with Romero, Johnson, and some other big names as well. Why do you feel that? Why do you think like that they've decided to start so late? Like, do you know anything on why they started so late?
I don't know, man, but I don't think it's smart. Everybody's already busy this year, and you come in April. It's still not the latest, man, because PFL is a week later. So, but PFL at least has booked or has at least said something about their events. They have announced the schedule already, not the fights or the lineups, but the schedule just. So I don't know why, man. I don't think it makes sense a lot, but hey, let's see what they're gonna say tonight. Looking forward to it. Hope we see some fun fights, man. And they're better on Friday.
I think PFL, yeah. And also, I think that PFL can get away with it as well because they're kind of like a season thing, aren't they? Like,
yeah,
they normally start April to October, isn't it? Or December, whenever it is. It's like it's a seasonal thing, so I think they can get away with it.
Yeah.
But I know that you've had quite a long day, like he said to me before. So. Last thing, is there anything that you want to plug or give a shout out to before I let you go?
Yeah, I want to thank you for having me again, man. Always cool. MMADNA.nl, that's my website with a few other guys as well. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. And my personal accounts are Big Marcel24 on Instagram and on Twitter. And yeah, that's it, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure, and everybody go and give Marcel a follow. He doesn't really need much introduction. Everybody, he's one of the most respected guys in MMA journalists. He always makes really good fights. He's my go-to news where I always go on his accounts and if any new fights are announced. And thank you for coming on, and I'll speak to you again soon.
For sure, man. Thanks.